everyone, it's Friday and you're watching Within the Frame. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. After a 10-day run, Busan International Film Festival has now come to an end. Though it had to raise the curtains amid a leadership absence and with worries over a curtailed budget for next year, thanks to the support of movie programmers, people from the film industry, and the movie lovers who attended, the event was relatively a success. A wide variety of films, including acclaimed titles from recent festivals and star directors and actors, have brightened up the red carpet. What films were most noticeable and what would need to be done to make BIFF a renowned international film festival? For more on this, we have invited Darcy Paquet, a film critic and translator. Darcy, welcome.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Hi, good to see you. And we also have Jason Bechervaise, a film critic and professor at Kyungdong University. Jason, good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Now, first question to our Darcy. After 10 days, the BIFF is finally coming to an end. It was quite a rocky journey toward this year's BIFF, with its leadership post having been vacant because of the internal feud. What happened exactly?
Yes, I think it's not uncommon for a big festival like this to have different types of internal feuds, but this year there was a particularly kind of strong conflict that broke into the open, into the public. And for that reason, many people in the film industry started to feel great concern over, whether the festival could be held within the allotted schedule, and it opened up a lot of discussion about the current leadership of the festival. And so ultimately, the festival chairman, Lee Young-kwan, who has been connected with the festival for close to 3 decades, agreed to take responsibility and to step down. And we will see after the festival sort of who ends up leading the festival into the future.
All right, I see. Now, Jason, what aggravated the situation was the government's decision to cut the budget earmarked for film festivals. And as far as I know, it was reduced by more than half. Is this correct?
Well, yeah, that's for next year. So that's something that I think will be of concern going into next year's edition and subsequent editions after that. I think for this year, in terms of budgetary constraints, the worry was sponsors. So some of the sponsors pulled out of the festival owing to the problems at the festival, so they had a reduced budget to work with. I mean, Busan does have a lot of sponsors. You'll see that, just walking around and going through the literature. It is the kind of so-called Cannes of Asia, and it attracts all sorts of sponsors, both here in Korea and from abroad. And so, given the problems at the festival, I think some of them did pull out or gave less money, and as a result, they had less money this year than they had in the past.
Right, so the number of sponsors was reduced because of the internal feud and all the conflicts within the festival.
Yeah, that's right. So, having less of a budget obviously means that they had less money to play with, and as a result, the edition this year was somewhat slimmed down. There were fewer films, there were fewer screenings, which meant actually getting tickets really difficult. But I think that also illustrated actually how this year it was a successful edition, in that there were lots of people at the festival watching films and generating excitement. So yes, there were fewer screenings, which was a shame, and therefore it was quite challenging, having to get up so early to try and get a ticket, and often not getting one and failing miserably. But it also, it made a statement in a sense that that there were people down in Busan watching films in what was I would say, a successful edition.
All right, I see. Now, Darcy, even amid such difficulties that we have been talking about, BIFF managed to arrange a wide lineup of movies and, of course, star guests. So let's first tap into the appearance of renowned directors who were at the festival. I remember names like Ryusuke Hamaguchi and Hirokazu Koreeda and so on. Could you tell us more about these directors at the festival?
Yes, there was a lot of excitement at the festival because of the presence of these directors. And when these directors come to visit the festival, they present their films, but often they give an open talk, and there's kind of a separate ticketing process for many of those open talks. Those two were quite competitive. It was hard to get in. Luc Besson, the French director, who I think many listeners will be familiar with, was there to present his latest film, Dogman. Certainly Hamaguchi, the Japanese director who became so famous with his movie Drive My Car, from a couple of years ago. He was back with his latest feature, and so that was a very hot ticket. Another thing that was quite interesting was a special section devoted to kind of Korean diasporic cinema. And so for that festival, they presented a number of films over the past few years. And they did have some directors and actors in attendance, and that included Lee Isaac Chung, the director of Minari, that caused such a sensation a couple of years ago. Justin Chun, who's a great filmmaker who's been involved in many films recently. And they did have actors like John Cho and Stephen Young. So there was a panel with the four of them where they discussed various issues about the experience of being a filmmaker who has connections to Korea but who grew up in other countries, and about their connection to their homeland and how they express that through their films. That panel certainly drew a lot of attention, and it was another thing that people were talking about at this year's festival.
Right, movie lovers must have been very much excited to actually see the directors and get to hear their insights as well. Right. Now, Jason, though their directors were unable to attend, acclaimed titles from recent film festivals, including Cannes' Anatomy of a Fall, were featured for festival goers. What were they?
Yeah, I tried to get a ticket and failed.
Really?
So I wasn't able to see that. Yeah, Anatomy of a Fall. So yeah, of course, that won the Palme d'Or in Cannes in May. There was also David Fincher's The Killer, which will be on the Netflix service as well later on this year. We also have Poor Things, starring Emma Stone, who's attracting a huge amounts of Oscar buzz. And so I tried to get a ticket for that. I wasn't able to see it,
Oh my God.
even though I was logging in at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and
Wow.
I just wasn't able to get a ticket. So I was very disappointed not to see that, because I won't be able to watch that now probably until early next year. So that is an opportunity to watch films that do kind of, they play a big part in the festival circuit. I was hoping to see a few, but alas, sadly not. Instead, what I did was watched a lot of the Korean films, which I was able to get tickets for, and there was quite a few to choose from there.
Right, great opportunity for some of the moviegoers, but not for Jason, all right. Well, Darcy, we cannot leave our star actors as well. I myself was very excited to see Chinese actors Pan Bingbing and Song Kang-ho as well. Who else was there?
Well, I think the big name was Chow Yun-fat.
Right.
Anyone who's a fan of Hong Kong cinema from the 1980s and 1990s, and of course his career has continued in Hollywood and internationally. I guess the iconic moment of the festival took place during the opening ceremony, and Korean actor Song Kang-ho was playing as the host of the festival and greeting guests as they arrived on the red carpet. And at the very end, Chow Yun-fat arrived, and I mean, you could feel just how much mutual respect they had for each other. Song Kang-ho looked like a child meeting his hero, and I mean, that emotion was shared by everybody in the audience. And so a special award was presented to Chow Yun-fat, the Asian Filmmaker of the Year, which is given to someone for their achievement throughout the course of their career. And so he spoke on stage, he seemed very moved by it. And then he did take part in some other events during the festival. So everybody, was hoping to catch a glimpse of Chow Yun-fat. But there were quite a few other stars as well. I managed to see Stephen Young and John Cho, and yeah, I mean, the opening ceremony was quite exciting. Fan Bingbing was there, looking very glamorous as usual. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the exciting things about this festival. I mean, both the famous stars, but also, when you watch a film and there's an actor who you've never seen before, but you see them up on the big screen, and then when the credits roll, then they come out to talk to the audience. And, as a viewer, that's just really exciting.
Well, who was your favorite?
I mean, Stephen Young is one of my favorite actors, I think.
Mine as well.
And of course, he's doing so many things that are really interesting these days, and BIFF and everything else. So yeah, seeing him up close was exciting.
All right. Well, Jason, let's turn to movies. This year, there were a number of movies from OTT platforms such as Netflix's Ballerina and Disney Plus's Vigilante. What films from different platforms were visitors able to enjoy?
Okay, so it's not just it's films. There was Believer 2 as well, which well, it's bad actually. I watched
Really?
that film. It's this is a sequel to the Lee Hae-young film that was released a few years ago, starring Yoo Jun-yeol and Jo Jung-un. And so the sequel's coming out on Netflix in a few weeks. And I was quite keen to see that, and that was frankly a big disappointment.
Really?
And yeah, I don't think that's going to go down particularly well. And so there was Ballerina, which also dropped on Netflix. I haven't actually got around to seeing that yet. There was also Yellow Door, which is another Netflix film. This is absolutely terrific, by the way. This is the film club that included, the members include Bong Joon-ho, for example, and it really contextualizes the period really well. As an academic teaching Korean cinema, this is going to be a film I screen to my students because the enthusiasm that you feel, not just from Bong Joon-ho, but from others in the group, just for cinema, I think it's infectious. So that comes out in a few weeks, and so that will be worth checking out. But it was not just films actually in the program, there were series as well. You mentioned Vigilante, which stars Nam Jun-hyuk. That's the Disney Plus show. That's quite good. I mean, I watched 3 episodes of that. There was also LTNS, Long Time No Sex. This is a TVing series, which comes out, I think, in a few months' time, featuring Isom, and apparently that is very good indeed. It was generating a lot of buzz at the festival, and I tried to get a ticket. Again, I failed.
Again?
Yeah, I failed. Well, I tried to watch a lot of. I
hard.
watched 20 films, including some of the films I watched before the festival. So I watched a lot. But yeah, there's just so much to choose from. But I think it does just go to show, though, how the industry is changing. We've got series, we've got films, and Busan has always kind of tried to capture where the industry is and where it's heading and where it's come from. And so you have retrospectives and you have various kind of programs. And I think with the program curated in the way it has been, not just this year but also last year, we're getting to see more shows and films that are available or will be available on streaming platforms.
So was it Yellow Door?
Yeah, Yellow
attracted
Door.
the most?
Yeah, this is the film that I mentioned earlier. This is
Yellow Door.
A movie that focuses on this film club. Basically the members met together in the 1990s, talking about movies, and in fact, Bong Joon-ho's first film was screened there, an animation, and so it's basically them kind of reminiscing over those times that they were kind of meeting together and talking about films, and you'd have like these. Bong Joon-ho would talk about how he would basically watch The Godfather, and they would get this VHS, and VHS recorders were really, really quite popular during the 90s, and they had this new function where they could rewind using this dial. And so he was able to kind of go back to these scenes and kind of watch them in slow motion, and that got him really excited. So he would then draw the scenes, break them down, and it's a really, really good film, and I think it's an absolute must for any Korean cinema or Bong Joon-ho enthusiast like myself.
I will definitely watch it. All right. Well, Darcy, we can definitely see the industry changing toward having more films from OTT platforms. Also from the fact that Asia Content Awards has been renamed as Asia Content Awards and Global OTT Awards. Could you elaborate more on this? And what content was the most recognized?
Yes, this is an award ceremony that was launched a few years ago, just to recognize the fact that so much is happening in terms of OTT, and the festival wanted to kind of broaden its approach a bit. And this year it merged with the Global OTT Awards, which was also held in Korea. And so it's a new name for the event. Basically, it looks at OTT series, broadcast series from around the world. There is a strong Asia focus because it takes submissions, and so most of the submissions they get are from Asia. But people were paying quite close attention to this. There was, they announced the nominations a couple weeks before the event took place, and ultimately on the night, Moving was the not surprisingly, I think, given all the buzz that's surrounding this series. But this was named, it got the top award, like Best Creative is the name of the award for the top produced show, and as well as Best Actor for Yoo Sung-young. and 2 other awards as well, writing and I think Best New Actor. There were other awards also given out. Scoop, an Indian show produced by Netflix, was named the Best Asian TV Series. And yeah, I mean, it was a very kind of star-filled night. You know, lots of people were in attendance. This was a yet another event that many people were trying to get into, but was really hard to get into.
Really?
You needed some kind of a special connection, I think, to get a ticket. But I mean, definitely, this is something that the festival has added in recent years that I think has become like a real kind of key aspect of the festival that I think we can see moving forward. There'll be more and more attention focused on this.
I loved Moving so much, and no wonder why it swept all the awards. Well, Jason, it seems more and more OTT-produced films are sweeping the awards and also being featured in the festival. Some welcome this and some don't. What's your view on this?
Well, I mean, I think it's the reality of where we are right now. Streaming is leading the industry, whether we like it or not. It seems more pronounced in Korea because people aren't returning to theaters in the same way that they are in the US or North America and Europe. Films such as Oppenheimer and Barbie did so well. Here in Korea, I mean, Oppenheimer did okay, but it didn't perform to the kind of numbers that we've seen in the past when it comes to Christopher Nolan and his films. And so I think viewing habits in Korea have shifted. For me, during the summer, that was confirmation. I saw that it was just people aren't watching the kinds of films that they used to, and not in the numbers that they used to. And in Chuseok, again, we saw a number of films just completely tank at the box office, including Kim Ji-yoon's Cobweb. And, you know, when I first came to Korea, you know, movies were just such a part, going to the theatre was such a social thing for young people, for older people, for all ages. That seems to have changed during the pandemic. And streaming platforms have certainly played a part in drawing audiences out of theatres, although I do think people go to the cinema now, and a lot of people are blaming ticket prices. I personally think it's a little bit more nuanced than that. I think it's a combination of factors. But I mean, talking to people down in Busan, actually, some were actually somewhat optimistic and seeing opportunities given the current market. And if you look at the films that have done well this year, so we have Sleep that broke even, we have Milsu or Smugglers that broke even. These are films that are not sequels. They're different, they're innovative. And Concrete Utopia didn't do as well as they'd like, but still it did perform. I think it did decent business during the summer, if not, you know, not terrific business. And, you know, that film was different too, it's darker. So we're seeing the effect of streaming in that I think producers now are seeing films that that didn't necessarily do well before that are performing better in the current marketplace. So I think there is room, you know, for optimism, I think, or cause for optimism rather. So yeah, I think it's an interesting place where we are right now, but it is a reality that streaming is very much leading the industry.
All right, I see. Now, Darcy, overall, many reports say the size of the festival, the BIFF, has been scaled down with not many side events taking place. And data just released today said the 140,000 moviegoers were attending this year's BIFF, which is quite less than last year. But they also added that it is relatively a success given the difficulties it had to face. How do you evaluate this year's BIFF?
I mean, being on the ground, my feeling was that this year was quite a successful event, just because there was so much excitement. There were clearly a lot of people who were there at the festival, you know, people who had come from all over Korea and were hoping to catch some films. You know, it's always hard each year to kind of judge the festival's success in terms of the numbers, because attendance numbers do tend to go up and down, and I think that there are a lot of different factors at play there.
Right.
And so, for example, I mean, there were fewer films, which, to be honest, I mean, to me, I felt that this was a good size for the festival. There have been years when it has stretched up almost to 300 films. And obviously, nobody can watch 300 films. But
that's true.
Even just, you know, I think 200 films is more than enough to pack the festival with really interesting works that people are excited to see. And another reason perhaps for the lower numbers is because of the way the scheduling and the screenings were kind of put together. So on the first day after the opening ceremony, the opening ceremony is held on Wednesday night, and there's only one film that's shown that day. And then on Thursday, everybody's anxious to start the festival. And typically I try to book 4 films on Thursday. But this year there are only kind of 3 slots. And things like that affect the ultimate numbers. But yeah, I mean, just seeing the excitement. I watched a lot of films and I stayed for Q&A sessions afterwards. Discussions with the directors and with other people who are involved in making the film. Every time there were just tons of questions from the audience. You could see in the faces of the guests who were visiting the festival that they were just so excited to have people so interested in their films and showing such interest and asking such kind of deep probing questions. That, yeah, I mean, nobody was really saying that, the festival was lacking energy this year in any way. So I would, especially considering all of the challenges that the festival has faced, coming out of the pandemic, and then, the controversies that took place earlier this year, and the fact that it was held this year with an interim festival director, and the planning started quite late. I'm kind of amazed that they pulled it off so smoothly.
All right, good to hear that it was a success.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, we are running out of time, but I'd like to ask you this last question. For more BIFF to come, what are some things that needs to be improved?
I guess just given the fact that I failed to get so many tickets, being able to get tickets a little bit more easily, perhaps in the I'm not sure how they'll do that. I mean, basically the system has changed, so you used to be able to get them in person. And my success rate would be much better then, whereas now it's all online. So everyone's kind of basically, getting to their computer at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then there's this kind of war going on to try and obtain tickets. And so if that system can somehow be improved, but it's fair game, I suppose, right? So I guess maybe have a few more screenings. I do like the size of the festival right now in terms of the number of films, but perhaps have a few more screenings. So audiences can maybe have a better chance of getting tickets. But I do agree with Darcy that, I think this year was a very successful edition, and I hand it to the organisers for being able to put it off so well, given the circumstances. And it's great to be back in an environment where, there's clearly a huge appetite for cinema. It just gives you that energy boost, that adrenaline. Because, at the moment, as much as I like streaming, I like being in a cinema, I like being at a festival, and certainly at Busan, it was a great experience. So kudos to the festival organisers for making it happen, despite the grave difficulties they faced.
All right. Well, Jason, I hope you get a ticket for the movie that you want for next year's BIFF.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. All right, well, this is all the time we have for today's edition. Thank you, Darcy, for your time.
Yeah, great to be here.
Thank you. And thank you, Jason, for your time and insights as well. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me, as always.
Thank you. All right, that's all for Within the Frame tonight. We'll be next Monday with more in-depth stories. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the weekend, and goodbye.